We both had this idea of making a film that felt more like it was eavesdropping or more like it was like stolen moments or something, and using all the real kids from the park.
And so many people think it's improv, you know, but it's not improv. It's just Harmony's word for word line.
Say you was to die tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
50 years from now, all the virgins you ever fucked, they're gonna remember you, right?
Yeah.
They're gonna tell their grandkids about that shit.
That telly is sure looks good in the sack.
The only improv is the four boys sitting on a couch smoking weed.
Oh, where'd you get that shit?
Oh, brother.
Yeah, we were smoking weed. We were smoking weed before they told us to smoke weed. That's why they were like, just smoke weed, you know?
It just never felt like we were making a movie. It was basically an exaggerated version of what we were already doing. You know, the fight in Washington Square Park was based on a fight that happened at the Brooklyn Banks.
It's not fucking 10 people here and shit. What's up, yeah, bro? Put your shirt on your shit.
At that point, mostly kids, everybody, we all just wanted to mostly just disappear. This was like pre-internet and before everyone's life was always on display. It was more of a thing of like living a life that was away from your parents and away from convention. And most everyone had broken homes and stuff. So the movie was mostly trying to show that world and that kind of like oblivion seekers.